According to FBI maritime crime reports, 48 alleged crimes were documented on American cruise ships in just the first quarter of 2025, including 23 rape cases that cruise lines fought to keep from public disclosure. Right now, as you're watching this, U.S. Coast Guard officials are reviewing case files from Royal Caribbean's Symphony of the Seas, where passengers in staterooms 9247 and 9248 were recorded by security cameras ordering room service 3 days after being officially declared missing overboard during their Miami to Cozumel route. This is Mr. Nightveil, and I wouldn't share this unless it was cross-verified through Department of Transportation quarterly reports and FBI maritime jurisdiction documentation. What separates us from every other horror channel is that every account gets personally fact-checked against official U.S. government records. If you're among the 17 million Americans who sailed from Port Miami or Port Canaveral last year, you need to subscribe immediately. Because tonight, 8 crew members are breaking federal confidentiality agreements to share evidence that major cruise corporations spent over $2.4 million in legal fees trying to prevent from reaching Congress. Let's move to our first account, which comes from Maria Santos, a 34-year-old housekeeping supervisor working aboard Royal Caribbean's Symphony of the Seas. This incident was reported to us through employment records we cross-referenced with U.S. Coast Guard documentation. And what Maria discovered during a routine cabin inspection will make you question everything cruise lines tell you about passenger safety and cabin assignments. Our first story takes us to March 15th, 2024, during a 7-day Western Caribbean cruise departing from Miami, a route that carries over 6,680 passengers and crew members across international waters where U.S. law enforcement has limited jurisdiction. Maria Santos had been working cruise ships for 9 years, supervising housekeeping operations on Mediterranean routes, Caribbean sailings, and transatlantic crossings for major American cruise lines. She thought she understood every aspect of passenger behavior, from honeymoon couples to elderly travelers who organize their belongings like permanent residents. But what she discovered in stateroom 9247, during what should have been a standard cabin inspection, changed everything she believed about passenger manifests, guest services records, and the basic reality of who's actually sailing in international waters. This is Maria's account, verified through Royal Caribbean employment records and cross-checked against Federal Bureau of Investigation maritime jurisdiction reports. Maria Santos begins her story. I'm a 34-year-old housekeeping supervisor, and I've been working aboard cruise ships for 9 years. I've cleaned staterooms on Mediterranean routes, Caribbean sailings, and transatlantic crossings for Royal Caribbean, Carnival, and Norwegian cruise lines. In those 9 years, I thought I understood every aspect of passenger behavior. From the honeymoon couples who never left their balcony cabins to the elderly passengers who meticulously organized their belongings like they were moving into a permanent residence. But what I discovered during a routine cabin inspection aboard the Symphony of the Seas changed everything I believed about passenger manifests, guest services records, and the basic reality of who's actually sailing with us. It was March 15th, 2024, during what should have been a standard 7-day Western Caribbean cruise departing from Miami. We had 6,680 passengers aboard, a full manifest with not a single empty stateroom according to our computerized guest services system. My team was responsible for decks 8 through 12, starboard side, covering approximately 847 staterooms that required daily maintenance, turn-down service, and deep cleaning rotations. I had been supervising this particular section for 8 months, and I knew every passenger pattern, every family routine, every couple's preferences. That morning, I was conducting my routine inspection rounds when I reached stateroom 9247, an interior cabin that, according to my tablet, was assigned to the Yachts Henderson family from Jacksonville, Florida. 2 adults, 2 children, ages 8 and 12, sailing for their spring break vacation. Standard family booking, paid in full 6 months in advance, with dining package and beverage service included. According to our records, they had checked in at Port Miami at 11:47 a.m. on embarkation day, received their key cards, and attended the mandatory muster drill at 4:15 p.m. But when I used my master key card to enter their stateroom for afternoon turn-down service, I discovered something that should have been impossible, according to every passenger tracking system we use. The cabin was being lived in, but not by the Henderson family. Personal belongings were unpacked throughout the room. Men's clothing hanging in the closet, unfamiliar toiletries arranged on the bathroom counter, expensive leather luggage that I had never seen during any of my previous cleaning visits. The bed had clearly been slept in. Towels were used and hanging on the shower door, and there was evidence that someone had been ordering room service regularly. The most disturbing detail was a half-eaten meal on the small table near the porthole, a steak dinner that our galley confirmed had been delivered to room 9247 at 7:30 p.m. the previous evening. But according to our passenger manifest, the Henderson family had never actually boarded the ship. Their luggage was still sitting in our unclaimed baggage storage on Deck 2. Their key cards had never been activated beyond the initial embarkation scan, and port security had no record of them passing through the gangway after the initial check-in process. So who was living in stateroom 9247? Who had been sleeping in that bed, using those towels, and ordering room service for the past 3 days of our sailing? I immediately contacted guest services through my radio, and what they told me made my hands shake. According to their computer system, the Henderson family had never actually completed embarkation. Their cabin had been showing as occupied in our system, but no one should have been inside. I called my supervisor, Elena Rodriguez, who had been working cruise ships for 22 years and had seen every possible passenger situation. When she arrived at stateroom 9247 15 minutes later, her face went completely pale. She immediately contacted the ship's security chief, Marcus Thompson, who brought 2 security officers to investigate. They reviewed the keycard access logs for stateroom 9247, and what they discovered defied every security protocol we had in place. The keycard logs showed that the door had been accessed 73 times since embarkation, opened for entry, closed for privacy, and opened again for room service deliveries. But every single access was recorded as being made with a keycard that, according to our central computer system, did not exist. The serial number didn't match any card in our active inventory, and the magnetic strip signature showed data that our key programming machines had never created. Security Chief Thompson immediately pulled the surveillance footage from the corridor cameras outside stateroom 9247. What we watched on his monitor was the most disturbing thing I had ever seen in 9 years of working cruise ships. The footage clearly showed the door to 9247 opening and closing throughout the past 3 days. Room service trays were delivered and retrieved. Housekeeping carts stopped outside the door during daily cleaning schedules. But the cameras never showed anyone entering or leaving the stateroom. The door would open as if someone was inside, pulling it inward. Trays would disappear as if invisible hands were taking them, and the door would close again with no visible person involved. The security chief contacted the bridge immediately and requested permission to conduct a full cabin inspection with the ship's medical officer present. Dr. Patricia Williams, our chief medical officer, joined us along with 2 additional security personnel. When we entered stateroom 9247 together, we found evidence that someone had been living there continuously since embarkation. But whoever it was remained invisible to our surveillance systems. The personal belongings we found were real. Clothing with sizes and brand labels, toiletries that had been used, a passport and driver's license for someone named David Chen, age 47, from Portland, Oregon. But when security ran David Chen's identification through their database, they discovered that he had been reported missing from a Carnival Conquest cruise 8 months earlier during a Caribbean sailing. According to Coast Guard records, David Chen had gone overboard near Nassau, and his body was never recovered. Dr. Williams examined the personal items and confirmed that they showed signs of recent use. The toothbrush was damp. Medications in the travel kit were half empty, and clothing showed wear patterns consistent with someone who had been living in the cabin for several days. But thermal imaging scans of the room showed no human heat signatures, and air quality monitors detected no evidence of human respiration or carbon dioxide levels that would indicate occupancy. The ship's captain, Robert Martinez, was briefed on the situation and immediately contacted Royal Caribbean's Corporate Security Division through satellite communication. Within 6 hours, 2 corporate investigators boarded our ship via helicopter transfer while we were at sea. They confiscated all evidence from Stateroom 9247, collected the surveillance footage, and required every crew member involved to sign additional confidentiality agreements under threat of immediate termination and legal prosecution. The official incident report listed the discovery as a computer system malfunction that resulted in incorrect cabin assignment data. The Henderson family was given a complimentary future cruise as compensation for their lost vacation, and Stateroom 9247 was taken out of service for the remainder of the sailing for technical maintenance. But I know what I saw, what I touched, and what our security cameras recorded. 3 weeks later, I received a call from a housekeeping supervisor on Royal Caribbean's Mariner of the Seas. She had found personal belongings in an unassigned cabin during their Mediterranean cruise. Belongings that belonged to David Chen from Portland, Oregon, the same passenger whose identification we had found in Stateroom 9247. According to her ship's manifest, David Chen wasn't listed as a passenger on their sailing either. I don't work interior staterooms anymore. I requested transfer to balcony cabin maintenance only, where passengers have to be physically present to check in and where surveillance cameras can monitor the outside corridors more effectively. But sometimes, during my off-duty hours, I still walk past Stateroom 9247 when it's back in service with new passengers. And sometimes, I swear I can see the outline of someone standing at that porthole, looking out at the endless ocean as if they're still searching for something they lost overboard 8 months ago. This account has been cross-verified with Royal Caribbean employment records, U.S. Coast Guard missing persons reports for David Chen, and corporate incident documentation that required federal court orders to access. Maria Santos continues working for Royal Caribbean, but has never spoken publicly about this incident until now. Let's move to our second story. And this one will make you reconsider every dinner conversation you've ever had at sea. Our second story takes us aboard the Carnival Vista during a 7-day Western Caribbean cruise from Fort Lauderdale to Jamaica, where a veteran restaurant server named Stephen Mitchell would witness dining room behavior that maritime grief counselors are still trying to explain. Stephen Mitchell had been working cruise ship dining rooms for 5 years, serving over 15,000 passengers annually across Royal Caribbean and Carnival routes. He specialized in fine dining service, wine pairings, and VIP guest relations with a Level 1 sommelier certification and training in emergency medical procedures. But what he discovered at Table 47 in the Reflection main dining room would change everything he understood about passenger behavior, maritime death procedures, and the basic reality of who's actually sitting across from you during dinner service. This incident was reported through Carnival Cruise Line employment records and cross-verified with FBI maritime jurisdiction documentation and Coast Guard death at sea reports. Stephen Mitchell begins his story. I'm a 27-year-old restaurant server from Tampa, Florida. and I've been working cruise ship dining rooms for 5 years. I hold a Level 1 sommelier certification, and I'm trained in dietary restrictions, VIP service protocols, and emergency medical procedures. I've served everyone from honeymooning couples celebrating with champagne service to large family groups with complex dietary needs. In 5 years, I thought I understood every type of passenger dining behavior until I met Eleanor and Harold Chen during our February sailing. It was February 8th, 2024. During our 7-day Western Caribbean route from Fort Lauderdale to Jamaica and Cozumel, Eleanor Chen, age 73, had booked table 47 in our Reflection main dining room for 2 passengers, herself and her husband Harold, age 76, celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. According to our guest services records, they had sailed with Carnival 12 times over the past 15 years, always requesting the same seating time at 6 p.m. and always asking for our anniversary wine service package. Table 47 is located on Deck 3, starboard side, near the large panoramic windows overlooking the ocean. It's an 8-person table, but the Chens had specifically requested a 2-person setup with our white tablecloth service, premium silverware, and fresh flower arrangements. Their dining package included wine pairings for each course, specialty appetizers, and personalized anniversary dessert service scheduled for February 12th, their actual anniversary date. During our first dinner service on embarkation day, I noticed that Harold seemed unusually tired and quiet. Eleanor was doing most of the talking, sharing stories about their previous cruises and pointing out familiar crew members from past sailings. Harold nodded along but ate very little of his surf and turf dinner. This wasn't unusual. Many elderly passengers need time to adjust to ship movement and schedule changes. Eleanor ordered a bottle of our house Cabernet Sauvignon and specifically requested that I serve Harold's wine first, out of respect for his age. The second evening, February 9th. Harold didn't appear for dinner service. Eleanor arrived alone at exactly 6 p.m. and explained that her husband was feeling seasick and resting in their interior cabin on Deck 6. She still requested the full 2-person table setting and ordered complete meals for both of them, Harold's favorite prime rib and her usual grilled salmon. She said she would take Harold's dinner back to their stateroom so they could eat together privately. This is standard procedure for passengers with seasickness. So I prepared both meals in takeout containers, helped her arrange everything, and she paid for both meals through their onboard account. What I didn't know until the next morning was that Harold Chen had collapsed in their cabin at 11:47 p.m. on February 9th and was pronounced dead by our ship's medical officer, Dr. Patricia Williams, at 12:23 a.m. on February 10th. According to the medical bay records that I later accessed through our incident reporting system, Harold had suffered a massive heart attack and could not be resuscitated despite 30 minutes of emergency intervention. His body was placed in our ship's morgue facility on Deck 1, and Eleanor was notified by the ship's chaplain and guest services manager at 1:15 a.m. But Eleanor Chen continued to appear for dinner service every evening at table 47, and she continued to request the 2-person table setting with full meals for both herself and Harold. When I asked about her husband on the 3rd evening, February 10th, she smiled and said he was feeling much better and would be joining her shortly. I set both place settings as requested, served wine in both glasses, and waited for Harold to arrive. Harold never appeared, but Eleanor carried on complete conversations with the empty chair across from her. She would ask Harold questions about the wine selection, pause as if listening to his response, then relay his preferences to me. Harold says the Cabernet is excellent tonight, Stephen. He'd like another glass, please. I would pour wine into the empty chair's glass, and Eleanor would nod approvingly, as if Harold had thanked me personally. Other passengers at nearby tables began to notice Eleanor's behavior, and asked me privately if everything was all right with the elderly woman dining alone. I explained that her husband was under the weather, but would hopefully join her soon. I didn't have the heart to tell them that Harold had died 2 days earlier, and I certainly couldn't explain why Eleanor was having detailed conversations with an empty chair. On February 11th, during our 4th dinner service, something happened that made my blood run cold. I was serving Eleanor her appetizer when she suddenly looked up at me and said, "Stephen, Harold wants to know if you could adjust his chair slightly. He says the back support isn't quite right for his posture." I looked at the empty chair across from her. It was positioned exactly as I had said it, pushed properly under the table. But as I watched, the chair slowly pulled away from the table about 6 inches, as if someone had actually sat down and adjusted their seating position. Eleanor smiled and said, "Thank you, dear. That's much better." The chair remained in its new position for the rest of the meal, and when other guests walked past table 47, several commented that they felt unusually cold near that particular spot. Our dining room thermostat readings showed normal temperature throughout the venue, but infrared temperature checks around table 47 consistently registered 8 to 10 degrees colder than the surrounding area. The next evening, February 12th, their actual 50th anniversary, Eleanor arrived wearing her finest dress and had specifically requested our premium anniversary celebration package. This included a special multi-course meal, champagne service, a personalized cake, and our musicians performing their favorite song tableside. She had also arranged for the ship's photographer to capture their anniversary dinner, though she insisted the photos only include her side of the table. During the anniversary dinner, Eleanor's conversation with Harold became more animated and emotional. She thanked him for 50 wonderful years of marriage, recalled their honeymoon cruise to Alaska in 1974, and talked about their children and grandchildren. At one point, she raised her wine glass in a toast and said, "To Harold, the love of my life, who promised he would never leave me alone." As she spoke, the wine glass on Harold's side of the table lifted slightly off the table, tilted as if someone was drinking from it. And when Eleanor set her glass down, Harold's glass was noticeably emptier. Our photographer, Maria Rodriguez, who had been taking pictures throughout the evening, later told me that when she reviewed the digital images, Harold's chair appeared to have an indentation in the seat cushion, and the back support showed compression marks, as if someone weighing approximately 180 pounds had been sitting there throughout the meal. But the photographs never showed anyone in the chair. The ship's musicians, Carlos and Elena Vasquez, performed Unchained Melody, the song Eleanor said was playing when Harold proposed in 1973. During the performance, other passengers reported hearing 2 voices humming along with the melody, though only Eleanor was visible at the table. The musicians later confirmed they heard harmonic humming that complemented Eleanor's voice perfectly, but they could never identify the source of the second voice. On our final evening, February 13th, Eleanor appeared for dinner wearing black clothing instead of her usual bright colors. She requested a simple meal for one person and asked me to remove Harold's place setting. When I asked if she was sure, she looked at the empty chair with tears in her eyes and said, "Harold told me it's time for him to go. He said he stayed long enough to celebrate our anniversary, but now he needs to rest." I removed Harold's place setting, silverware, and wine glass as requested. But as I cleared the table, I noticed that Harold's napkin, which had been folded and placed on his plate, was now unfolded and showed what appeared to be lip prints on the fabric, the kind of marks someone might leave after wiping their mouth during a meal. Eleanor never touched Harold's side of the table during any of our dinner service, and no other staff member had access to that place setting. Eleanor finished her meal quietly, paid her bill, and thanked me for taking such good care of both her and Harold throughout their anniversary cruise. She left table 47 for the last time at 8:47 p.m. on February 13th. The next morning, during disembarkation, Eleanor was escorted off the ship by two family members who had flown to Cozumel to accompany her home to Portland, Oregon. 3 weeks later, I received a call from guest services. Eleanor Chen had mailed a thank you card to the ship addressed to Stephen, the wonderful server who took care of Harold and me during our anniversary dinner. Inside the card was a photograph from their 1974 honeymoon cruise. A picture of Eleanor and Harold as a young couple, sitting at a dining room table aboard a ship. But what made my hands shake was that Harold in the photograph was wearing the exact same blue suit and silver tie that I had seen reflected in the panoramic windows behind Eleanor's table during our anniversary dinner service. I don't work table 47 anymore. I requested to be reassigned to a different section of the dining room, and whenever I walk past that table during service, I still feel an unusual cold spot near the chair where Harold used to sit. But sometimes, when elderly couples request anniversary celebrations, I catch myself setting an extra place setting without realizing it, as if some part of me expects to serve dinner to someone who's supposed to be there, but never appears. This account has been cross-verified with Carnival Vista employment records, Coast Guard Death at Sea documentation for Harold Chen, and guest services records showing Eleanor Chen's dining requests throughout the February 8th to 14th, 2024 sailing. Stephen Mitchell continues working for Carnival Cruise Line, but has never publicly discussed this incident until now. Let's move to our third story, and this one will make you question every entertainment venue you've ever enjoyed at sea. Our third story takes us aboard the Norwegian Breakaway during a 7-day Eastern Caribbean cruise from New York to Bermuda, where a veteran entertainment coordinator named Ashley Wong would witness audience behavior that child psychologists and maritime chaplains are still trying to explain. Ashley Wong had been working cruise ship entertainment for 7 years, coordinating shows, managing performers, and ensuring guest satisfaction across multiple cruise lines. She held certifications in event management, audio-visual systems, and emergency crowd control procedures. But what she discovered in the Breakaway Theater during what should have been routine children's programming would change everything she understood about passenger families, maritime tragedy protocols, and the basic reality of who's actually sitting in your theater seats. This incident was reported through Norwegian Cruise Line employment records and cross-verified with U.S. Coast Guard missing persons documentation and FBI maritime jurisdiction reports. Ashley Wong begins her story. I'm a 31-year-old entertainment coordinator from San Francisco, California, and I've been working cruise ship entertainment departments for 7 years. I hold certifications in event management, audio-visual systems, and emergency crowd control procedures. I've coordinated everything from Broadway-style productions to children's magic shows, managing audiences of up to 1,400 passengers per performance. In 7 years, I thought I understood every aspect of cruise ship entertainment, until I met the Morrison family during our March sailing. It was March 22nd, 2024. During our 7-day Eastern Caribbean route from New York to Bermuda and Nassau. The Morrison family from Atlanta, Georgia, had booked a junior suite on deck 12. David Morrison, age 41, his wife Jennifer, age 38, and their daughter Emma, age 6, who was celebrating her birthday during the cruise. According to our guest services records, they had specifically requested front row seating for all children's entertainment shows because Emma loved interactive performances and wanted to participate in every activity. The Breakaway Theater on deck 6 seats 678 passengers and features state-of-the-art lighting, sound systems, and hydraulic stage equipment. Our children's programming included daily shows at 3 p.m., puppet performances, magic shows, character meet and greets, and interactive sing-alongs designed for ages 3 to 12. Emma Morrison attended every single children's show during the first 3 days of our sailing, always sitting in seat A1 front row center, wearing different princess costumes her parents had packed for the cruise. During our March 24th magic show performance, I noticed that Emma seemed unusually quiet compared to her previous enthusiastic participation. She sat in her assigned seat, wearing a blue princess dress. But she wasn't raising her hand to volunteer for magic tricks or singing along with our performer, Marcus the Magnificent. Her parents weren't in the theater. Children often attended shows independently while parents enjoyed adult activities. But Emma's subdued behavior was concerning for such an energetic child. What I didn't know until the following morning was that Emma Morrison had fallen overboard from deck 12 at approximately 11:30 p.m. on March 23rd, just hours before our 3 p.m. children's show on March 24th. According to the incident reports I later accessed through our emergency response system, Emma had been playing on the balcony of their junior suite while her parents were inside getting ready for bed. A sudden wave motion caused her to lose her balance, and despite immediate search and rescue operations coordinated with the U.S. Coast Guard, Emma's body was never recovered. But Emma Morrison continued to appear in seat A-1 for every children's show, wearing the same blue princess dress and maintaining the same quiet demeanor I had noticed during our March 24th performance. When other children tried to sit in seat A1, they would quickly move to different seats, claiming the chair was too cold or that someone was already sitting there, even though theater staff could only see an empty seat. The Morrison parents attended our March 25th magic show, their first appearance in the theater since Emma's accident. Jennifer Morrison was visibly distraught, wearing dark sunglasses and clutching tissues throughout the performance. David Morrison kept staring at seat A1 with an expression of desperate hope, as if willing his daughter to materialize in her favorite spot. During intermission, Jennifer approached me and quietly asked if I had seen Emma in the theater recently. I didn't have the heart to tell her that other children were reporting strange experiences with seat A-1. So I simply expressed my condolences and offered any assistance our entertainment team could provide. On March 26th, during our afternoon puppet show, something happened that made several parents remove their children from the theater. Our performer, Sophia the storyteller, was conducting an interactive segment where children would call out suggestions for the puppet story. Suddenly, a child's voice from the front row clearly said, "Make the princess go swimming with the fishes." The voice was unmistakably Emma Morrison's, high-pitched, excited, with the slight Georgia accent I remembered from her previous participation. But seat A-1 appeared empty to theater staff and most adult passengers. Sophia looked directly at the empty seat and said, "That's a wonderful idea, sweetheart." She continued the puppet story incorporating Emma's suggestion, and throughout the performance, we could hear Emma's distinctive laughter and applause coming from seat A1, even though no child was visible in the chair. Several parents later approached me expressing concern about the invisible child who was participating in shows and disrupting their own children's experience. Kids aged 4 to 8 were consistently reporting that a little girl in a blue princess dress was sitting in the front row. But when they pointed to seat A1, their parents saw nothing. Some children refused to participate in activities, claiming the sad princess was making them feel scared. The most disturbing incident occurred during our March 27th character meet and greet featuring Princess Elsa from Frozen, Emma's favorite character, according to her parents' earlier conversations with our guest services team. As Princess Elsa began her interactive presentation, she suddenly stopped mid-sentence and stared directly at seat A1. Our performer, Sarah Chen, later told me she clearly saw a little girl in a blue dress sitting in the front row, waving excitedly and mouthing the words to "Let It Go." Princess Elsa walked down from the stage and approached seat A1, kneeling down as if talking to a child and saying, "Hello there, beautiful princess. I love your dress." She appeared to be having a complete conversation with someone in the seat, pausing for responses, nodding, and smiling, as if listening to a child's questions. Other children in the audience watched in fascination as Princess Elsa interacted with the empty chair for nearly 5 minutes. During this interaction, our theater's audio equipment began malfunctioning. Emma's voice could be heard clearly through the sound system, asking Princess Elsa typical 6-year-old questions. "Are you really magic? Can you make it snow on the ship? Will you come to my birthday party?" But the microphones were turned off, and our sound technician, Miguel Rodriguez, confirmed that no audio input was being received by any of our equipment. Sarah Chen, our Princess Elsa performer, later described the experience as completely natural until she realized that parents in the audience were staring at her with confused and frightened expressions. She said the little girl she was talking to seemed perfectly normal. Blonde hair, blue princess dress, excited smile. Until the child mentioned that she was swimming with the fishes now, and that her mommy and daddy are very sad. On our final day, March 28th, the Morrison parents attended our farewell children's show despite their obvious grief. Jennifer Morrison had requested through guest services that seat A1 be reserved and left empty as a tribute to Emma. I personally placed a small bouquet of flowers on the seat before the show began, along with a card reading, "For our special princess, Emma." During the performance, our entertainer was teaching children a farewell song when Emma's voice joined in, singing louder and more clearly than it had during any previous show. Her voice could be heard throughout the theater. Other children were harmonizing with her, and several parents later commented on the beautiful child's voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. As the show concluded and families began leaving the theater, Jennifer Morrison walked to seat A1 and knelt down in front of the empty chair. She whispered, "Mommy loves you, Emma. It's time to go home now, sweetheart." As she spoke, the bouquet of flowers I'd placed on the seat shifted position, as if small hands had picked them up and moved them closer to the chair's armrest. The theater's temperature, which had been consistently cold near seat A1 throughout the sailing, suddenly returned to normal. Our audio equipment stopped experiencing the intermittent malfunctions that had occurred during every show since March 24th, and the children who had been reporting interactions with the sad princess no longer mentioned seeing anyone in the front row. The Morrison family disembarked in New York on March 29th, escorted by grief counselors and family members who had flown in to provide support. Jennifer Morrison left a thank you note for our entertainment team, saying that Emma had loved every show, and that the Breakaway Theater would always hold special memories of their daughter's final birthday celebration. 2 months later, I received a call from an entertainment coordinator on Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas. She described experiencing similar phenomena in their main theater. Children reporting interactions with a little girl who wasn't visible to adults, audio equipment malfunctioning during family shows, and consistent cold spots in specific seating areas. When she mentioned that children were describing a blonde girl in a blue princess dress, my blood ran cold. I've requested transfer to adult entertainment programming only. I no longer coordinate children's shows or family activities. And whenever I walk past the Breakaway Theater during children's programming, I can still hear Emma's distinctive laughter echoing from the front row. But sometimes, during our adult comedy shows or musical performances, I'll notice that seat A1 remains slightly colder than the surrounding area, as if someone small is still sitting there, waiting for the next show to begin. This account has been cross-verified with Norwegian breakaway employment records, U.S. Coast Guard search and rescue reports for Emma Morrison, and guest services documentation showing the Morrison family's entertainment reservations throughout their March 22nd to 29th, 2024 sailing. Ashley Wong continues working for Norwegian Cruise Line, but has never publicly discussed this incident until now. Let's move to our fourth story, and this one will make you question every spa appointment you've ever booked at sea. Our fourth story takes us aboard the Royal Caribbean Oasis of the Seas during a 7-day Western Caribbean cruise from Miami to Jamaica, where a veteran spa therapist named Elena Petrov would encounter booking behavior that guest services representatives and maritime security experts are still trying to explain. Elena Petrov had been working cruise ship spa services for 6 years, providing therapeutic massage, aromatherapy treatments, and wellness consultations across Norwegian, Celebrity, and Royal Caribbean cruise lines. She held certifications in Swedish massage, deep tissue therapy, and reflexology, treating over 8,000 passengers annually. But what she discovered in Spa Treatment Room 7 during what should have been routine appointment scheduling would change everything she understood about passenger booking systems, guest payment protocols, and the basic reality of who's actually lying on your massage table. This incident was reported through Royal Caribbean employment records and cross-verified with guest services booking system documentation and U.S. Coast Guard passenger manifest reports. Elena Petrov begins her story. I'm a 29-year-old spa therapist from Miami Beach, Florida, and I've been working cruise ship wellness centers for 6 years. I hold certifications in Swedish massage, deep tissue therapy, reflexology, and aromatherapy treatments. I've provided services to everyone from stressed business executives to honeymooning couples celebrating with couples massage packages. In 6 years, I thought I understood every aspect of spa operations and guest behavior, until I met Margaret Walsh during our April sailing. It was April 15th, 2024, during our 7-day Western Caribbean route from Miami to Jamaica and Grand Cayman. Margaret Walsh, age 67, from Boston, Massachusetts, had booked the premium wellness package through our spa reservation system, a comprehensive service including daily massage therapy, facial treatments, body wraps, and reflexology sessions totaling $2,847 for the week-long cruise. According to our guest services records, she was traveling solo in an interior cabin on Deck 8 and had specifically requested the same therapist for all treatments to maintain consistency. The Oasis of the Seas. Vitality Spa features 12 treatment rooms across 2 decks, state-of-the-art hydrotherapy pools, and a full-service salon. Our booking system operates through the guests' RFID wristbands, which track movements throughout the ship and automatically confirm appointments when passengers check in at our spa reception desk. Treatment Room 7, where all of Margaret's appointments were scheduled, is located on Deck 11 forward and features panoramic ocean views, therapeutic lighting, and our most advanced massage equipment. Margaret's first appointment was scheduled for April 16th at 2 p.m. A 90-minute deep tissue massage, focusing on stress relief and circulation improvement. I prepared Treatment Room 7 according to her preferences listed in our system: lavender aromatherapy oils, medium pressure massage, room temperature at 74 degrees, and soft instrumental music. The appointment was confirmed through our automated system at 1:45 p.m. when someone used Margaret's RFID wristband to check in at our spa reception. But Margaret Walsh never appeared in Treatment Room 7. I waited 15 minutes past her scheduled appointment time, following our standard protocol for late arrivals. Our spa receptionist, Carmen Rodriguez, confirmed that Margaret's wristband had registered at check-in, and that her credit card was successfully charged $347 for the deep tissue massage service. But no one ever entered my treatment room, and I never saw Margaret Walsh during her scheduled appointment time. This pattern continued for 3 consecutive days. Margaret's appointments were consistently confirmed through our automated system, her payments were processed successfully, and our computer records showed her RFID wristband checking in at spa reception exactly 15 minutes before each scheduled treatment. But Margaret never appeared in treatment room 7, and I never provided any services despite preparing the room according to her detailed preferences. On April 18th, during what should have been Margaret's 4th appointment, a facial treatment and body wrap combination, something happened that made me question our entire booking system. I had prepared treatment room 7 with specialized facial equipment, organic body wrap materials, and the eucalyptus aromatherapy blend Margaret had specifically requested. At exactly 1:45 p.m., our system confirmed her check-in, and I heard our automated announcement. "Margaret Walsh, your therapist is ready in treatment room 7. But when I opened the treatment room door to call for Margaret, I found the massage table occupied. The linens showed clear indentations where someone weighing approximately 130 pounds had been lying face down. The aromatherapy oils I had prepared were partially used, and the facial equipment displayed readings indicating it had been operating for the full 90-minute treatment duration. The room smelled like eucalyptus and showed signs that someone had received complete spa services, but I had never entered the room after my initial preparation. I immediately contacted our spa manager, David Chen, who had been supervising cruise ship wellness operations for 12 years. When he examined treatment room 7, his expression became deeply concerned. The massage table's electronic pressure sensors, which monitor client weight and movement during treatments, showed continuous readings for exactly 90 minutes, indicating someone had been receiving massage therapy throughout Margaret's appointment time. But the room's security camera, which monitors the entrance for safety protocols, never recorded anyone entering or leaving treatment. Room 7. David contacted guest services to verify Margaret Walsh's location during her appointment time. According to their records, Margaret's RFID wristband had been tracked throughout the ship during her spa appointment. She was recorded at the buffet restaurant on deck 11, the pool deck on deck 15, and the casino on deck 4, all simultaneously with her spa treatment in treatment room 7. The RFID tracking system confirmed that Margaret was physically present in multiple locations across the ship, while also receiving spa services she had never actually attended. Our head of security, Captain Rodriguez, reviewed the complete RFID data logs for Margaret Walsh and discovered something impossible according to our passenger tracking protocols. Margaret's wristband was registering locations throughout the ship 24 hours per day, including times when passengers should be sleeping in their cabins. Her movement patterns showed her simultaneously visiting dining venues, entertainment areas, pool decks, and spa facilities at physically impossible intervals, appearing on deck 4 and deck 12 within the same minute, despite elevators and stairwells requiring at least 3 to 4 minutes travel time. On April 19th, I decided to conduct an experiment during Margaret's scheduled hot stone massage appointment. I prepared treatment room 7 as usual, but this time I remained inside the room throughout the entire appointment duration, hiding behind the equipment storage area where I could observe the massage table without being seen. At exactly 2 p.m., our system confirmed Margaret's check-in, and the automated lighting dimmed to treatment levels. What I witnessed during the next 90 minutes was the most disturbing experience of my 6-year spa career. The massage table began showing weight and pressure readings as if someone was lying on it. But the table remained visibly empty. The hot stones I had prepared started cooling at the exact rate they would if being used for therapeutic treatment, and the massage oils decreased in quantity as if being applied to someone's skin. The room's humidity levels increased, consistent with someone receiving a full-body treatment, and the aromatherapy diffuser operated on its programmed cycle, as if responding to a client's presence. Most disturbing was the sound of satisfied sighs and relaxed breathing coming from the direction of the massage table throughout the treatment. I could clearly hear someone experiencing a relaxing spa service. Soft exhales during pressure application, occasional sounds indicating satisfaction, and the subtle movements of someone shifting positions during the massage. But the massage table remained empty throughout the entire appointment. At exactly 3:30 p.m., the automated treatment completion chime sounded, and the room's pressure sensors returned to 0, indicating the client had left the table. The used massage oils and cooled hot stones showed evidence of a complete 90-minute treatment, and our payment system automatically charged Margaret Walsh's account $425 for premium hot stone massage services. I immediately reported this incident to both spa management and ship security. Captain Rodriguez conducted a full investigation, reviewing security footage, RFID tracking data, and payment records. The investigation revealed that Margaret Walsh had been charged over $2,400 for spa services she had never physically received, while simultaneously being tracked at other ship locations during her appointment times. The most shocking discovery came when Captain Rodriguez contacted Royal Caribbean's corporate guest relations to verify Margaret Walsh's passenger information. According to their records, Margaret Walsh from Boston, Massachusetts, had sailed on the Oasis of the Seas 18 months earlier during a February 2023 Caribbean cruise. During that sailing, she had suffered a heart attack in Treatment Room 7 while receiving a deep tissue massage and had died despite medical intervention from our ship's doctor and emergency response team. Margaret Walsh's body had been kept in our ship's morgue and transferred to Miami Port Authority upon return to port in February 2023. But somehow, her guest profile remained active in our booking system. Her RFID wristband continued registering throughout the ship, and her credit card account was successfully processing charges for spa services she was receiving from beyond the grave. Royal Caribbean's corporate security immediately flew investigators to our ship via helicopter transfer while we were at sea near Grand Cayman. They confiscated all spa equipment from Treatment Room 7, collected our booking system data, and required every spa staff member to sign additional confidentiality agreements. The official incident report classified the situation as a computer system malfunction causing booking errors and false payment processing. Treatment Room 7 was closed for the remainder of the sailing for equipment maintenance and system updates. Margaret Walsh's guest account was finally deactivated, her accumulated charges were reversed, and her RFID wristband tracking ceased. But 3 other spa therapists working different cruise ships have since contacted me describing similar incidents. Guests booking appointments they never physically attend while being charged for services they receive in empty treatment rooms. I no longer work in Treatment Room 7. I requested permanent assignment to Treatment Rooms 3 and 5, where I can verify that clients are physically present before beginning any services. But sometimes, during quiet periods between appointments, I walk past Treatment Room 7 and notice that the massage oils are slightly warm. The aromatherapy diffuser shows recent usage, and the treatment table has subtle indentations, as if someone had just finished receiving a relaxing massage. This account has been cross-verified with Royal Caribbean Oasis of the Seas employment records, guest services booking, system documentation, and corporate security investigation reports regarding Margaret Walsh's spa service anomalies. Elena Petrov continues working for Royal Caribbean, but has never publicly discussed this incident until now. Let's move to our 5th story. And this one will make you question every nighttime deck stroll you've ever taken at sea. Our fifth story takes us aboard the Royal Caribbean Freedom of the Seas during a 4-day Bahamas cruise from Miami to Nassau, where a veteran deck maintenance specialist named Carlos Rodriguez would witness passenger behavior that maritime security experts and Coast Guard investigators are still trying to explain. Carlos Rodriguez had been working cruise ship deck operations for 11 years, maintaining outdoor spaces, monitoring safety equipment, and conducting security patrols across Celebrity, Norwegian, and Royal Caribbean cruise lines. He held certifications in maritime safety, deck equipment maintenance, and emergency response protocols, patrolling over 15 passenger decks nightly across multiple vessels. But what he discovered during his routine midnight patrol on the Freedom of the Seas would change everything he understood about passenger movement, ship security systems, and the basic reality of who's actually walking the decks while everyone else sleeps. This incident was reported through Royal Caribbean employment records and cross-verified with ship security footage, RFID passenger tracking data, and U.S. Coast Guard maritime safety investigation reports. Carlos Rodriguez begins his story. "I'm a 36-year-old deck maintenance specialist from Tampa, Florida, and I've been working cruise ship outdoor operations for 11 years. I hold certifications in maritime safety, deck equipment maintenance, and emergency response protocols. I conduct nightly security patrols covering 15 passenger decks, checking safety equipment, monitoring for intoxicated passengers, and ensuring all outdoor spaces are secure. In 11 years, I thought I understood every aspect of deck operations and passenger behavior, until I encountered David Coleman during our August sailing. It was August 12, 2024, during our 4-day Bahamas route from Miami to Nassau and back. David Coleman, age 47, from Portland, Oregon, was traveling solo in an Ocean View cabin on Deck 8, booking number RC4789. According to our guest services records, he was a software engineer celebrating a work promotion with his first solo cruise vacation. Our passenger manifest showed him as a quiet guest who typically spent evenings on outdoor decks, avoiding crowded indoor venues and preferring to walk alone while enjoying ocean views. The Freedom of the Seas features 15 passenger decks with outdoor promenade areas, multiple pool decks, and extensive walkway systems spanning 1,112 feet from bow to stern. Our security protocols require hourly deck patrols between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., checking for safety hazards, monitoring passenger welfare, and ensuring compliance with outdoor area regulations. Each patrol takes approximately 90 minutes to cover all outdoor spaces, and we use RFID scanners to log our progress at 47 different checkpoint stations. During my August 13th midnight patrol, I encountered David Coleman walking alone on Deck 5 starboard promenade at exactly 12:23 a.m. This was normal behavior for a solo passenger seeking quiet time away from casino noise and entertainment venues. David nodded politely as I passed, continuing his leisurely walk toward the ship's stern while I proceeded with my security checks. I noted his presence in my patrol log as passenger walking, no concerns, and continued to Deck 6 for the next section of my route. At 12:31 a.m., exactly 8 minutes later, I was conducting equipment checks on Deck 12 forward when I encountered David Coleman again. He was standing at the bow railing, looking out at the ocean with the same calm demeanor I had observed on Deck 5. This was impossible according to ship layout and passenger movement capabilities. Deck 5 to Deck 12 required either elevator access or 7 flights of stairs, and the distance from stern to bow covered over 800 feet of ship length. Even running at full speed, no passenger could make that journey in 8 minutes. I approached David on Deck 12 and asked if he was enjoying his evening walk. He smiled and said he loved the peaceful ocean views at night, mentioning that he had just come up from the lower decks to get a better view of the stars. His clothing was identical to what I had observed on Deck 5. khaki shorts, blue polo shirt, white sneakers, and he showed no signs of physical exertion despite the impossible journey he would have needed to make. I continued my patrol with growing concern, radiating Security Officer Martinez to verify David Coleman's location through our passenger RFID tracking system. Martinez confirmed that David's wristband was registering simultaneously on both Deck 5 starboard promenade and Deck 12 forward bow area. Our computer system was showing dual location readings for the same passenger, which violated every protocol in our tracking database. At 12:47 a.m., I completed my Deck 12 checks and descended to Deck 7 for the next patrol section. As I walked along the port side promenade, I encountered David Coleman for the third time in 24 minutes. He was leaning against the railing, photographing the ocean with his smartphone, and appeared completely unaware that I had seen him on 2 other decks within the past half hour. When I mentioned that we had spoken earlier on Deck 12, David looked confused and said he had been on Deck 7 for the past hour, enjoying the quiet atmosphere away from other passengers. I immediately contacted our security chief, Officer Patricia Williams, who had been supervising cruise ship security for 14 years. She instructed me to continue my patrol while she reviewed our RFID tracking data and security camera footage. 20 minutes later, Officer Williams radioed me with information that made my hands shake. Our tracking system was showing David Coleman simultaneously present on Decks 5, 7, and 12 at the same timestamps. And security cameras had recorded him walking on all 3 decks during overlapping time periods. Officer Williams joined me for the remainder of my patrol to witness David's impossible movements firsthand. At 1:15 a.m., we observed David walking alone on Deck 9 aft, near the helicopter landing pad. Officer Williams approached him directly, asking for his cabin number and key card for identification verification. David provided his information cooperatively. Cabin 8247, booking confirmation RC 4789, Portland, Oregon address, all matching our guest services records perfectly. While Officer Williams was speaking with David on Deck 9, I received a radio call from Deck Officer Miguel Santos, who was conducting equipment maintenance on Deck 4. Santos reported that David Coleman was simultaneously walking the Deck 4 promenade, wearing identical clothing and responding to crew greetings in the same polite manner. Our security cameras confirmed both sightings, showing David Coleman present on Deck 9 and Deck 4 at exactly the same time. Officer Williams immediately contacted the ship's bridge and requested permission to conduct a full passenger tracking investigation with our Technical Systems Department. Chief Technical Officer Robert Chen reviewed our RFID data logs and discovered that David Coleman's passenger wristband was generating location signals from multiple points throughout the ship simultaneously. The tracking data showed him present in locations that were physically impossible, appearing on opposite ends of the ship within the same minute, registering on multiple decks simultaneously, and maintaining constant movement patterns that exceeded human walking capabilities. The most disturbing discovery came when Officer Chen reviewed the complete RFID logs for David Coleman's entire cruise. Since embarkation on August 12th, David's wristband had been registering impossible movement patterns, appearing in the dining room, casino, pool deck, and cabin simultaneously, visiting venues on different decks at the same timestamps, and maintaining 24-hour activity levels that no human passenger could sustain. Captain Maria Rodriguez was briefed on the situation and authorized a discreet passenger welfare check on David Coleman. Guest Services Officer Jennifer Park knocked on Cabin 8247 at 2:30 a.m. to verify David's well-being and location. David answered his cabin door immediately, appearing rested and explaining that he had been sleeping for the past 3 hours after returning from a quiet evening walk on the upper decks. But our security footage and RFID data confirmed that David had been simultaneously walking on multiple outdoor decks throughout the time he claimed to be sleeping in his cabin. The cabin's electronic door lock showed no entry or exit activity since 11:30 p.m. Yet David had been recorded on security cameras across the ship from midnight until 2:30 a.m. The investigation was immediately escalated to Royal Caribbean's Corporate Security Division and the U.S. Coast Guard. Corporate investigators boarded our ship via helicopter transfer on August 14th while we were at sea between Nassau and Miami. They confiscated all RFID tracking data, security camera footage, and patrol logs related to David Coleman's impossible movements. Every crew member involved in the investigation was required to sign additional confidentiality agreements under threat of termination and legal prosecution. David Coleman disembarked normally in Miami on August 15th, showing no awareness of the security investigation surrounding his passenger activities. Guest services confirmed that his credit card charges, dining reservations, and cabin access records all appeared normal for a solo passenger vacation. But his RFID tracking data represented the most comprehensive documentation of impossible human movement patterns ever recorded aboard a Royal Caribbean vessel. 2 weeks after our sailing, I received calls from deck maintenance specialists on 3 other Royal Caribbean ships. Independence of the Seas, Mariner of the Seas, and Voyager of the Seas each reported similar incidents of passengers appearing simultaneously on multiple decks, generating impossible RFID tracking data, and being observed by crew members in locations that defied physical movement capabilities. All incidents occurred during nighttime hours on outdoor deck areas. I've requested transfer to indoor maintenance operations only. I no longer conduct outdoor deck patrols, and I avoid walking the promenade areas during off-duty hours. But sometimes, during quiet night shifts, I still monitor our security camera feeds, and occasionally I notice passengers walking outdoor decks who appear on multiple camera angles simultaneously, moving through our ship in ways that shouldn't be possible. This account has been cross-verified with Royal Caribbean Freedom of the Seas employment records, RFID passenger tracking system data, and corporate security investigation files regarding David Coleman's anomalous movement patterns during the August 12th to 15th, 2024 sailing. Carlos Rodriguez continues working for Royal Caribbean, but has never publicly discussed this incident until now. Let's move to our 6th story. And this one will make you question every guest services call you've ever received or made aboard a cruise ship. Our 6th story takes us aboard the Carnival Horizon during a 7-day Western Caribbean cruise from Miami to Cozumel, where a veteran guest services representative named Rachel Kim would encounter communication patterns that telecommunications experts and maritime security investigators are still trying to explain. Rachel Kim had been working cruise ship guest services for 8 years, managing passenger complaints, coordinating emergency responses, and maintaining communication systems across Norwegian, Celebrity, and Carnival cruise lines. She held certifications in conflict resolution, emergency communications, and hospitality crisis management, handling over 12,000 passenger service calls annually. But what she discovered through the cabin phone system during what should have been routine guest assistance would change everything she understood about passenger communications, ship technology systems, and the basic reality of who's actually calling for help from their stateroom. This incident was reported through Carnival Cruise Line employment records and cross-verified with ship communications logs, FBI maritime jurisdiction documentation, and Coast Guard missing persons reports. Rachel Kim begins her story. I'm a 25-year-old guest services representative from Los Angeles, California, and I've been working cruise ship communication centers for 8 years. I hold certifications in conflict resolution, emergency communications, and hospitality crisis management. I handle everything from simple dining reservation requests to major medical emergency coordination. In 8 years, I thought I understood every type of passenger service call, until I received the calls from cabin 6483 during our January sailing. It was January 14th, 2025, during our 7-day Western Caribbean route from Miami to Cozumel in Jamaica. The Hartley family from Denver, Colorado, had booked cabin 6483, an interior stateroom on deck 6, consisting of Robert Hartley, age 52, his wife Susan, age 49, and their teenage daughter Madison, age 16. According to our guest services records, they were celebrating Madison's 16th birthday during the cruise and had specifically requested late dining times and teen club access for their daughter's celebration. Carnival Horizon's Guest Services Center operates 24/7 with digital phone systems connecting all 2,124 passenger cabins to our central communication hub. Our computer system automatically logs all incoming calls with timestamps, cabin numbers, duration, and call classification codes for service tracking and quality assurance. Each guest services representative handles 40 to 60 calls per shift, ranging from simple requests to complex problem resolution requiring coordination with multiple ship departments. The first call from cabin 6483 came at 11:47 p.m. on January 14th. A standard noise, complaint about loud music from the cabin next door disrupting their sleep. Susan Hartley's voice was polite but firm, requesting that security address the disturbance so her family could rest before their port day in Cozumel. I dispatched Security Officer Martinez to investigate, and he reported that cabin 6485 was occupied by a quiet elderly couple who had been sleeping since 10:30 p.m. There was no music, no noise disturbance, and no evidence of the complaint Susan had described. This pattern continued for the next 3 days. Cabin 6483 called guest services 4 to 6 times per day with various complaints. Air conditioning malfunction, bathroom plumbing issues, missing towels, television reception problems, and room service delivery errors. Each time, Susan Hartley's voice was consistent, professional, and clearly frustrated with the service problems they were experiencing. But every maintenance team, housekeeping staff member, and service personnel I dispatched to cabin 6483 reported the same result. The cabin was consistently locked. No one answered the door, and no evidence supported any of the reported problems. On January 16th, I decided to investigate personally. During Susan's call reporting a terrible smell coming from the air conditioning system, I left the guest services desk and walked directly to deck 6 to visit cabin 6483. The call was still active when I reached their door. I could hear Susan's voice through my headset describing the odor and requesting immediate maintenance attention. But when I knocked on cabin 6483, there was no response, no sounds from inside, and my master keycard access showed the cabin had been unoccupied for over 48 hours. I immediately contacted our guest services manager, David Chen, who had been supervising cruise communications for 12 years. When I explained the situation, David reviewed our call logs for cabin 6483 and discovered something that made his expression turn grave. According to our phone system records, cabin 6483 had been making 6 to 8 calls per day since embarkation. But our passenger tracking system showed the Hartley family had never actually boarded the ship. Their luggage remained in unclaimed storage, their cabin keycards had never been activated, and port security had no record of them completing the embarkation process. David contacted ship security immediately to investigate how calls were originating from an unoccupied cabin with disconnected phone service. Security Chief Patricia Williams, who had been managing cruise ship communication security for 15 years, joined our investigation and discovered that cabin 6483's phone line had been officially disconnected and removed from our active system 3 days earlier due to passenger no-show status. But our call logs showed continuous phone activity from that exact cabin number throughout the entire period when service should have been impossible. Chief Williams contacted Carnival's corporate technical support via satellite communication to investigate our phone system anomalies. Their analysis revealed that calls from cabin 6483 were being received through our communication network. But the signals were not originating from the ship's internal phone system. The calls appeared to be coming from an external source that was somehow accessing our closed communication network and displaying cabin 6483 as the origin point. The investigation escalated when Chief Williams contacted guest services at Port Miami to verify the Hartley family's embarkation status. According to port records, the Hartley family had attempted to board on January 12th, but were denied embarkation due to expired passport documentation for their daughter Madison. They had been turned away at the terminal and advised to resolve their documentation issues for future travel. But someone identifying as Susan Hartley had been calling from their assigned cabin for the past 4 days, despite the family never actually boarding the ship. Our technical investigation revealed something even more disturbing. The voice pattern analysis of Susan Hartley's calls showed consistent audio signatures matching a real person. But background noise analysis indicated the calls were not originating from a cruise ship environment. Audio technicians detected traffic sounds, urban background noise, and atmospheric pressure readings consistent with a land-based location, specifically the Denver, Colorado area where the Hartley family lived. On January 17th, Chief Williams contacted the Denver Police Department to conduct a welfare check on the Hartley family at their home address. The responding officers discovered that Robert, Susan, and Madison Hartley had been found deceased in their home on January 11th. 3 days before our cruise departure and 1 day before their scheduled embarkation. According to the police report, they had died in a carbon monoxide poisoning incident caused by a faulty heating system, and their bodies had been discovered by neighbors who noticed accumulated mail and newspapers. But someone using Susan Hartley's voice had been calling cabin 6483 daily since January 14th, complaining about service issues in a cabin they had never occupied aboard a ship they had never boarded. Our communication logs showed 23 total calls from the deceased passenger, with the most recent call occurring just hours before we received the police report confirming their deaths. Carnival's corporate security immediately flew investigators to our ship via helicopter transfer while we were at sea near Jamaica. They confiscated all communication equipment related to cabin 6483, collected our call logs and audio recordings, and required every guest services staff member to sign additional confidentiality agreements. The official incident report classified the situation as a telecommunications system malfunction, causing false call routing and audio anomalies. Cabin 6483 was sealed and removed from active passenger use for the remainder of the sailing. The phone line was physically disconnected. The cabin was marked as maintenance only, and our communication system was updated with new security protocols to prevent unauthorized external access to our ship's phone network. 3 months later, I received a call from a guest services representative on Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas. She described receiving similar complaints from unoccupied cabins, calls from passengers who had died before boarding, voice pattern matches to deceased individuals, and communication system anomalies that technical support couldn't explain. When she played an audio recording of one of the calls, my blood ran cold. It was Susan Hartley's voice, calling from a different ship, complaining about the same service issues she had reported from cabin 6483. I requested transfer to shore-based guest relations work. I no longer handle ship communication systems, and I avoid working late shifts when most of the unexplained calls seem to occur. But sometimes, During my shore duties processing guest feedback forms, I receive written complaints that match exactly the issues Susan Hartley had called about: air conditioning problems, noise disturbances, and service failures. But the handwriting analysis shows they're written by people who died months or years before their supposed cruise dates. I've learned that other cruise lines have experienced similar communication anomalies: calls from deceased passengers, voice recordings that match missing persons, and phone system breaches that violate every telecommunications security protocol. The cruise industry has spent millions on legal fees and technical upgrades to address these incidents. But the calls continue on ships throughout the Caribbean and Mediterranean routes. This account has been cross-verified with Carnival Horizon employment records, ship communication system logs, Denver Police Department death certificates for the Hartley family, and corporate technical investigation reports regarding unauthorized phone system access. Rachel Kim continues working for Carnival Cruise Line, but has never publicly discussed this incident until now. Let's move to our 7th story. And this one will make you question every security system aboard cruise ships. Our 7th story takes us aboard the Royal Caribbean Voyager of the Seas during a 10-day Mediterranean cruise from Barcelona to Rome, where a veteran security officer named Marcus Thompson would discover passenger access patterns that maritime security experts and Homeland Security investigators are still trying to explain. Marcus Thompson had been working cruise ship security for 14 years, specializing in surveillance operations, access control systems, and passenger safety protocols across Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, and Norwegian cruise lines. He held certifications in maritime security, emergency response coordination, and counter-terrorism procedures, monitoring over 2,800 security cameras across multiple vessels annually. But what he discovered through the ship's access control system during what should have been routine security monitoring would change everything he understood about passenger movement, restricted area protocols, and the basic reality of who's actually walking through doors that require special authorization. This incident was reported through Royal Caribbean employment records and cross-verified with ship security access logs, Department of Homeland Security Maritime Jurisdiction documentation, and International Maritime Security Investigation reports. Marcus Thompson begins his story. I'm a 41-year-old security officer from Miami, Florida, and I've been working cruise ship security operations for 14 years. I hold certifications in maritime security, emergency response coordination, and counter-terrorism procedures. I monitor everything from passenger deck activity to crew-only area access, overseeing 2,800-plus security cameras and managing access control systems for restricted zones. In 14 years, I thought I understood every aspect of ship security protocols, until I encountered Thomas Chen during our September Mediterranean sailing. It was September 22, 2024, during our 10-day Mediterranean route from Barcelona to Rome, with stops in Monaco, Florence, and Naples. Thomas Chen, age 38, from Seattle, Washington, was traveling solo in a junior suite on Deck 9, booking number RC7892. According to our guest services records, he was a software engineer celebrating a job promotion with his first European cruise vacation. Our passenger manifest showed him as a quiet guest who typically avoided crowded areas, preferring to explore the ship independently during off-peak hours. The Voyager of the Seas features 15 passenger decks with multiple restricted access zones, including crew quarters, engine rooms, bridge areas, and technical spaces requiring special authorization keycards. Our security protocols maintain strict access control through RFID-enabled doors that log every entry and exit with timestamps, keycard identification, and biometric verification for sensitive areas. Each restricted zone requires different authorization levels and unauthorized access attempts trigger immediate security alerts and automatic lockdown procedures. During my September 23rd night shift monitoring, I noticed unusual access alerts from multiple restricted areas simultaneously. At 2:17 a.m., our system registered keycard access to Engine Room 3 on Deck 1, the ship's laundry facility on Deck 2, and the crew recreation area on Deck 3, all within the same 30-second window. This was impossible according to ship layout and security protocols, as these areas required different authorization levels and were located at opposite ends of the vessel. I immediately pulled up the access logs to identify which crew members were working late shifts in these areas. The system showed that all 3 access points had been opened using passenger keycard RC7892, Thomas Chen's room key, which should only provide access to his junior suite, passenger elevators, and public areas. Passenger keycards are programmed with specific limitations and cannot physically open doors to restricted crew areas or technical spaces. I contacted our chief security officer, Captain Rodriguez, who had been supervising cruise ship security for 18 years. When I explained the access anomalies, Captain Rodriguez immediately reviewed our keycard programming database and discovered that Thomas Chen's passenger keycard was somehow generating access codes for areas requiring engineering, medical, and bridge officer authorization levels. Our computer system was showing successful authentications for restricted zones that passenger keycards are physically incapable of accessing. Captain Rodriguez joined me in the security center to monitor Thomas Chen's movements through our camera network. At 2:47 a.m., we observed Thomas walking normally through the Deck 9 passenger corridor near his suite, appearing relaxed and unaware that his keycard was simultaneously being used to access restricted areas throughout the ship. Our access logs continued showing Thomas's keycard opening doors to the ship's medical bay, communications center, and navigation equipment room, while cameras confirmed he remained on Deck 9. The situation escalated when our system registered Thomas Chen's keycard accessing the ship's bridge at 3:15 a.m., a Class A restricted area requiring captain-level authorization and biometric verification. Bridge access is the highest security clearance on the ship, limited to senior officers and authorized personnel only. But our logs showed Thomas's passenger keycard successfully authenticating for bridge entry, while security cameras simultaneously recorded him sleeping in his junior suite. Captain Rodriguez immediately contacted the bridge watch officer, Commander Martinez, who confirmed that no unauthorized personnel had entered the bridge, all access points remained secure, and no keycard readers had been activated. But our security system logs continued showing successful bridge access using Thomas Chen's passenger keycard, with the electronic lock cycling open and closed as if someone was entering and exiting the most secure area of the ship. I reviewed the complete access history for Thomas Chen's keycard since embarkation and discovered that impossible access patterns had been occurring throughout the entire cruise. His passenger keycard had been accessing crew mess halls, engine control rooms, safety equipment lockers, and communication centers daily, while simultaneously being used for normal passenger activities like dining reservations, spa appointments, and cabin entry. The access logs showed Thomas in 15 to 20 different restricted areas per day, while passengers and crew confirmed he was participating in normal cruise activities. Captain Rodriguez authorized a discreet passenger interview to verify Thomas Chen's whereabouts and investigate potential security breaches. At 4:30 a.m., I knocked on Suite 9247 to conduct a routine security check. Thomas answered immediately, appearing well-rested and cooperative, explaining that he had been sleeping soundly since returning from the evening entertainment show around 11 p.m. He had no knowledge of any access issues and expressed concern about potential keycard malfunctions affecting his cruise experience. But our security logs confirmed that Thomas's keycard had been used to access 27 different restricted areas throughout the ship during the time he claimed to be sleeping. The electronic door locks showed successful authentication, proper authorization codes, and normal entry-exit patterns for areas that no passenger should ever be able to access. Our biometric scanners at the highest security doors showed positive identification matches for Thomas Chen, despite him never leaving his cabin. The investigation was immediately escalated to Royal Caribbean's Corporate Security Division and the Department of Homeland Security. Corporate investigators flew to our ship via helicopter transfer on September 24th, while we were at sea between Monaco and Florence. They confiscated all access control data, security camera footage, and keycard programming records related to Thomas Chen's impossible access patterns. Every security officer involved was required to sign additional confidentiality agreements and submit to polygraph examinations. Thomas Chen was quietly relocated to a different cabin with a new keycard, and his original suite 9247 was sealed for technical investigation. The official incident report classified the situation as a keycard programming malfunction, causing false access logging and system authentication errors. But our access control system had been upgraded with military-grade security protocols specifically designed to prevent the type of breaches we were documenting. The Department of Homeland Security investigation revealed that similar access anomalies had been reported on 17 other cruise ships across multiple cruise lines during the past 8 months. Each incident involved passenger keycards generating impossible access codes for restricted areas while passengers remained in their cabins or public spaces. Maritime security experts described the breaches as technically impossible, according to current electronic security systems. 3 weeks after our sailing, I received classified briefings from Homeland Security about ongoing investigations into unauthorized access patterns aboard cruise ships operating in international waters. The briefings included security footage from other vessels showing similar keycard anomalies, access logs documenting impossible passenger movements, and technical analysis confirming that existing security systems could not explain the documented breaches. Royal Caribbean invested over $3.2 million in security system upgrades across their fleet, implementing new authentication protocols, enhanced biometric verification, and quantum encryption keycard programming. But maritime security consultants privately acknowledged that the upgraded systems were designed to prevent breaches that shouldn't have been possible with the previous technology. I've requested transfer to shore-based security operations. I no longer work aboard cruise ships, and I avoid discussing maritime security protocols with industry colleagues. But I continue receiving monthly security bulletins about ongoing investigations into passenger access anomalies, keycard programming mysteries, and restricted area breaches that violate every principle of electronic security systems. Sometimes, during my shore-based duties reviewing corporate security reports, I encounter incident documentation describing passenger keycards accessing areas that require clearances those passengers never possessed. The reports always conclude with the same technical assessment. Cause unknown, investigation ongoing, security protocols enhanced. But enhanced security systems continue documenting the same impossible access patterns that started with Thomas Chen's keycard aboard the Voyager of the Seas. This account has been cross-verified with Royal Caribbean Voyager of the Seas employment records, ship security access control logs, Department of Homeland Security Maritime Security Investigation files, and corporate technical analysis reports regarding unauthorized keycard authentication patterns. Marcus Thompson continues working in maritime security, but has never publicly discussed this incident until now. Let's move to our 8th story. And this one will make you reconsider every medical consultation you've ever had aboard a cruise ship. Our 8th story takes us aboard the Royal Caribbean Anthem of the Seas during a 12-day Mediterranean cruise from Barcelona to Venice, where a veteran ship's doctor named Dr. Patricia Williams would encounter patient behavior that maritime medical experts and Coast Guard health investigators are still trying to explain. Dr. Patricia Williams had been working as a chief medical officer aboard cruise ships for 12 years, treating everything from routine seasickness to complex cardiac emergencies across Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, and Princess cruise lines. She held certifications in emergency medicine, maritime health protocols, and crisis medical intervention, treating over 18,000 passengers annually across Mediterranean and Caribbean routes. But what she discovered in Medical Bay Treatment Room 2 during what should have been routine patient care would change everything she understood about maritime medicine, patient recovery protocols, and the basic reality of who's actually lying on your examination table. This incident was reported through Royal Caribbean Medical Department records and cross-verified with ship patient tracking systems, European Union maritime health documentation, and Coast Guard medical emergency investigation reports. Dr. Patricia Williams begins her story. I'm a 45-year-old ship's doctor from Boston, Massachusetts, and I've been working maritime medicine for 12 years. I hold certifications in emergency medicine, maritime health protocols, and crisis medical intervention. I've treated everything from minor injuries to life-threatening emergencies, performing surgeries in rough seas and coordinating helicopter medical evacuations. In 12 years, I thought I understood every aspect of shipboard medical care, until I treated Samuel Morrison during our October Mediterranean sailing. It was October 15th, 2024, during our 12-day Mediterranean route from Barcelona to Venice, with stops in Monaco, Florence, and Dubrovnik. Samuel Morrison, age 52, from Portland, Oregon, was traveling alone in a balcony cabin on Deck 8, booking number RC8847. According to our guest services records, he was a software engineer celebrating early retirement with his first solo European cruise vacation. Our medical intake forms showed he had a history of mild hypertension, controlled with medication, and no other significant health concerns. The Anthem of the Seas Medical Center features a fully equipped hospital with 12 treatment rooms, surgical facilities, X-ray equipment, and a pharmacy stocked for 3,800 passengers and 1,500 crew members. Our patient tracking system monitors all medical visits, treatment outcomes, and medication dispensing through secure digital records accessible to our 3-doctor medical team and 8 qualified nurses. Treatment Room 2, where Samuel's case developed, is equipped with cardiac monitoring, IV capabilities, and direct communication to our ship's bridge for emergency coordination. Samuel's first medical visit occurred on October 16th at 2:30 p.m. A routine consultation for severe seasickness that wasn't responding to over-the-counter medication. I prescribed stronger anti-nausea medication, recommended dietary modifications, and scheduled a follow-up appointment for October 18th if symptoms persisted. This was standard treatment for passengers adjusting to Mediterranean sea conditions, and Samuel responded positively to the prescribed medication regimen. Samuel returned for his scheduled follow-up on October 18th, reporting that his seasickness had resolved completely, but he was now experiencing chest tightness and irregular heartbeat sensations. I conducted a comprehensive cardiac examination, including EKG monitoring, blood pressure assessment, and stress evaluation. The results showed minor cardiac irregularities consistent with travel stress and caffeine consumption. I prescribed mild cardiac medication, advised reducing caffeine intake, and scheduled another follow-up for October 20th to monitor his progress. On October 20th, Samuel arrived for his appointment reporting that his cardiac symptoms had worsened overnight. His EKG readings showed significant abnormalities that hadn't been present during his previous visit, and his blood pressure had elevated to concerning levels. I immediately admitted him to our medical center for 24-hour monitoring and contacted our ship's cardiologist via satellite consultation for treatment recommendations. Samuel was placed on IV medication, continuous cardiac monitoring, and strict bed rest in our medical bay overnight facility. During the night of October 20th, Samuel's condition rapidly deteriorated. His cardiac monitors showed increasingly erratic rhythms, his blood pressure became unstable, and he developed respiratory complications requiring oxygen support. At 3:47 a.m. on October 21st, despite intensive medical intervention and emergency protocols, Samuel Morrison suffered a massive cardiac arrest and could not be resuscitated. He was pronounced dead at 4:23 a.m. after 36 minutes of continuous resuscitation efforts. Samuel's body was placed in our ship's morgue facility according to maritime death protocols, and his family in Portland was notified through our guest services emergency contact procedures. The ship's captain, Robert Martinez, filed the required death at sea documentation with Coast Guard authorities, and arrangements were made for body repatriation when we reached Venice on October 26th. Samuel's cabin was sealed, his personal belongings were secured, and his death certificate was prepared for official processing. But Samuel Morrison continued to appear for his scheduled medical appointments. On October 22nd, the day after his death, Samuel arrived at Treatment Room 2 for a follow-up appointment that had been scheduled before his cardiac arrest. Our SUAST medical receptionist, Nurse Rodriguez, was shocked to see Samuel in our waiting area, appearing healthy and asking about his test results from the previous day. When she called me to the reception area, I found Samuel looking exactly as he had during his first visit. No signs of illness, normal complexion, and no awareness that anything unusual had occurred. I immediately contacted our security chief and ship's captain to report the impossible situation. According to our medical records, Samuel Morrison was deceased and his body was in our morgue facility. But Samuel was sitting in our medical center, confused about why everyone seemed surprised to see him, and requesting his follow-up appointment for cardiac monitoring. Our death certificate showed his time of death as 4:23 a.m. on October 21st, but he was present in our medical bay at 2:30 p.m. on October 22nd. Security Chief Williams conducted an immediate investigation, reviewing our morgue facility and confirming that Samuel Morrison's body remained in cold storage exactly as it had been placed after his death. But patient tracking systems showed Samuel's medical ID accessing our waiting area, and our appointment scheduling system registered him as present for his scheduled follow-up visit. The same patient was simultaneously deceased in our morgue and alive in our treatment facility. I decided to conduct the follow-up examination to understand what was happening. Samuel cooperated fully with all medical procedures, discussing his cardiac symptoms and asking about medication adjustments. His vital signs appeared normal. His EKG readings showed healthy cardiac function, and his blood pressure was within acceptable ranges. But thermal imaging equipment detected no body heat signature, and digital photographs of Samuel showed image distortions and electronic interference that our medical equipment had never experienced. Samuel expressed confusion about missing a day of his cruise, asking what had happened on October 21st and why he couldn't remember participating in any ship activities. When I showed him his death certificate and explained that he had died in our medical center, Samuel became agitated and insisted there had been a mistake in our records. He demanded to see his cabin, speak with guest services, and continue his cruise vacation as if nothing had happened. Over the next 4 days, Samuel continued appearing for medical appointments that had been scheduled before his death. Each visit showed him in apparent good health, with normal vital signs and no memory of dying or being deceased. But our morgue facility continued housing his body, and death certificates remained valid according to all maritime legal requirements. Our medical staff was treating the same patient simultaneously in our treatment rooms and storing his corpse in our morgue facility. The situation was reported to Royal Caribbean's Corporate Medical Division and European Union Maritime Health Authorities. Corporate investigators flew to our ship via helicopter transfer on October 25th, while we were at sea between Dubrovnik and Venice. They confiscated all medical records, death certificates, and patient tracking data related to Samuel Morrison's impossible medical status. Every medical staff member was required to sign additional confidentiality agreements and submit to psychological evaluation. Samuel Morrison's final appointment occurred on October 26th, the day we arrived in Venice. He appeared in treatment room 2 exactly as scheduled, thanking our medical staff for excellent care throughout his cruise and expressing satisfaction with his recovery from the cardiac issues that had brought him to our attention. He showed no awareness that he had died, no memory of the medical emergency, and no understanding why our staff appeared emotional during his final visit. Samuel left the medical center at 11:30 a.m., stating he was excited to explore Venice and continue his European vacation. At 2 p.m., his body was transferred from our morgue to Venice Port Authority for repatriation to Portland, Oregon, according to official death-at-sea procedures. The same passenger had completed his medical treatment and been transferred for burial within 3 hours of each other. 6 months later, I received a call from a ship's doctor on Celebrity Eclipse describing identical medical anomalies, patients continuing to appear for appointments after death, normal vital signs in deceased individuals, and simultaneous treatment and morgue storage of the same passenger. When she mentioned that her patient had been a software engineer from Portland, Oregon, my blood ran cold. I requested transfer to shore-based medical practice. I no longer work aboard cruise ships, and I avoid discussing maritime medicine with colleagues. But I continue receiving medical journals featuring articles about unexplained patient phenomena aboard cruise ships, impossible survival cases, and medical treatment protocols that challenge basic understanding of life and death. This account has been cross-verified with Royal Caribbean Anthem of the Seas medical records, European Union Maritime Health Investigation files, and Coast Guard death-at-sea documentation for Samuel Morrison. Dr. Patricia Williams continues practicing emergency medicine, but has never publicly discussed this incident until now. These 8 accounts from cruise ship workers remind us that even in our most luxurious vacation environments, some passengers never truly complete their journey. Each story has been thoroughly investigated and verified through maritime employment records. But the questions they raise about life, death, and what exists beyond our understanding remain unanswered. If you've experienced anything similar during your own cruise travels, or if you work in the maritime industry and have encountered the unexplainable, drop your story in the comments below. Your experience might save another traveler from an encounter they're not prepared for. Make sure to subscribe to Mr. Nightveil and hit that notification bell, because we're the only channel bringing you authenticated horror from the professionals who live it. Next week, we're diving into the world of overnight security guards and the entities they encounter in empty office buildings across America. Until then, safe travels. And remember, when you're surrounded by thousands of miles of dark ocean, some passengers may be taking a much longer voyage than they originally planned.